Hey everybody, welcome to my first live Dentrix user meeting broadcast from my new video studio here in Colorado. We're here in our spare bedroom, and we have created a makeshift video studio up here in our spare bedroom. So it's been interesting kind of putting all this technology together, and we kind of had one little technology glitch at the very last minute, so we kind of had to go to plan B. I'm hoping that it's all working out, that you can see me clearly, you can hear me clearly, and that it's going to be a really great meeting for everybody today. So just a couple housekeeping things, and then I'll get started. My trusty assistant and husband and love of my life is my assistant today. And he is going to be monitoring all of the questions that are coming in. So for everyone that's online with us live, you can type questions in the comments. And Kevin will be monitoring those questions as we go along. So if you have a question during one of the topics, so if I bring up a topic and you have a question about that, please put it in the comments, and I will do my best to answer your question live. If it's an off-topic question, then I will reach back out to you after the event is finished. So I will not ignore any questions. I will definitely get back to everybody. If you have registered, oh my gosh, we had 548 people register for this event. I am just so blessed and thankful for all of you. I mean, this is what I love to do, and you showed me how much you wanted this meeting. So thank you so much. So if you did register, your name is in this basket here, okay? And we will be drawing for prizes throughout the day, throughout the event today. For all kinds of prizes. So we'll be doing that today. And then, let's see, what else? I think that's all I have for housekeeping things. So let me just I'm just going to start by giving you a little bit about where I come from. I kind of fell into dentistry. For those of you that don't know my story, I kind of fell into dentistry. I was on the corporate America path. I wanted to be a marketing executive. So my good friend Michael at Henry Schein One will love that story. I wanted to be a marketing executive. And so I was on that path. I was in college working as an intern at a big bank up in Washington State. And about 6 months into me working at the bank and in college, the bank filed bankruptcy, and I was all of a sudden out of a job. And I had already bought a house, I was already married, I had lots of debt, and I had to get a job quickly. And so I went to work for my Uncle Dave. He had a computer company that installed computers and networks and all kinds of computer software into medical and dental offices. And so I went to work for my Uncle Dave doing software support, and I used to build computers from scratch, and so that's kind of where I got my technology love. And so I did that for a few years, worked for my Uncle Dave, and then I went to work for my first dental practice up in the state of Washington, North Seattle. I went to work for my first dental practice, and that's where I really gained my knowledge of systems and working with a marketing consultant group. And I really wanted to be more involved with goal setting, and we did yearly planning meetings, and we would have our yearly planning meeting with our consultant, and I said, that is what I want to do. And but life takes its turns and so I ended up at a second dental practice on Whidbey Island, Washington, and I was there for 18 years. And I loved that practice, and we grew that practice, and I took my knowledge of goal setting and planning and all of that into this practice, and we really exploded that practice. But while I was there, we had a computer system that was DOS based. Do you remember that? C:\\\. And so it was about 2003, and my doctor gave me the go ahead to start looking for new computer systems, new software. And so I did lots of demos. You know, I did the EagleSoft demo, and back then it was Genesis, I think was another one of the big ones. And we did a Dentrix demo. And when my Dentrix demo was scheduled, who do you think walked in to do my Dentrix demo? My Uncle Dave. And so my practice, we did purchase Dentrix for my practice in 2003. And I must tell you that I was not the happiest conversion client. And, you know, now that I've been through hundreds of conversions into Dentrix, I really have that understanding of what offices go through. And, you know, so when I converted to Dentrix, I knew that if I was going to love this software, I needed to learn as much about it as I could. So, you know, I had my 1,200 page manual. I was on Dentrix 9 at the time. And I had sticky notes and highlighters and all kinds of stuff trying to learn everything I could about this software so that I could learn to love it and really take it to its fullest potential. And it was about kind of the end of 2005. The state of Washington was looking for certified Dentrix trainers. And I applied to be a trainer because I thought, you know, what better way for me to learn everything about the software than to become certified. And so in January of 2006, I was a certified Dentrix trainer, not really thinking that I was going to actually go out and train offices, but that's what I did. They threw me out to the sharks, and I was all of a sudden training offices with Dentrix on my days off. My practice, we worked only 4 days a week, so I had 1 day a week that I could go out and do training. And I absolutely loved it. And so over the next several years, I have grown my training business. I started presenting seminars for Henry Schein, and now I speak all over the world. And now I'm speaking to all of you online for the very first time. And I mean, just how it's all evolved. And so I'm really excited that you're all online with me today and that we get to share some ideas. And, you know, when I first originally scheduled this Dentrix user meeting, we were going to hold it in Denver at a really great learning center in South Denver. And our topic was something quite different than what we're going to talk about today. We weren't in these stay-at-home orders. Our practices were open. Our practices were thriving. Now you all are at home and you're working from home. You're, you know, using LogMeIn or GoToMyPC, or maybe sometimes you're actually going into the practice maybe once or twice a week. But you're all looking for projects. You're looking for how can I make my practice better when I come back to work full time. And so that's what we are going to focus on today. We are going to find out how can I make my patient database cleaner, more reliable, so when I come back that I can just hit the ground running and I'm ready to go. So, are you ready to do that? All right, well, let's go. Let's turn this projector back on. And let's get back to our software. So, 1 second, please. All right. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about different ways that you can clean up your software. What are the things that drive you crazy the most? I know, because I hear about it all the time. I hear from you every week or every day. I get emails text messages, Facebook messages. I get all kinds of communication from all of you, because here are the things that I'm hearing from all of you. And when I do an online assessment with a practice, what I'm hearing is, let me shut this down. There we go. Okay. What I'm hearing from all of you is that you want ways to clean up those duplicate insurance plans, or triplicate. Maybe you have triple insurance plans in your system. That's what we're going to talk about, one thing today. Another thing we're going to talk about is, how many of you have providers that are still in the active provider list that haven't worked at your practice for years? Yeah, we're going to look at how to inactivate providers and how to clean up those provider balances. Another thing that comes up a lot is allocating balances. Oh my gosh, that's a big one, right? And so a lot of times people will call me and they'll say, why is it allocating this money to this provider that's hasn't worked at our practice for 10 years? Well, I'm going to show you what it does, why it does that, and then I'm going to teach you how to clean it up, okay? And then I'm going to show you some new features with Dentrix G7.3. I am currently on, so as we go through today, I am on a Dentrix 7.3 Update 1. It came out a few weeks ago, and I'm also on a tutor database. So I don't have a live patient base like you. So the lists and the reports and the things that you're going to see on my screen are going to be quite a bit shorter, smaller than what you have available. I mean, when you run some of these reports, they're going to be like hundreds of pages long. And so don't worry about that. I'm just going to try and show you the best I can with my tutor database, the things that you can do in your software. Okay? So first, let's start with the first thing on the list. Cleaning up your duplicate insurance plans, okay? Let's see. There we go. Okay, so to clean up your duplicate insurance plans, and I know sometimes I go out of the screen, which is fine, because you don't really need to be looking at me all day. You need to be looking at all of this, right? So to clean up your duplicate insurance plans, we're going to go to the Office Manager, go to Reference, and go to Insurance Maintenance. And and one thing I probably also should remind you all is this is cleaning up duplicate insurance plans is, I'm going to show you kind of a couple different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you the Dentrix way, which is how the system was designed, and then I'm going to show you the Dana way, just because, a lot of times I hear what practices are really looking for, and the usability, the way that you might use it in a practice might be just slightly different than the way the programmers designed the software. So when you go to your insurance list, and hopefully you can see this on the screen, okay? I blew up my resolution so you could see it a little bit bigger. I hope that you can all see this okay. You will all get the recording, so you'll be able to play this back and re-watch it if you want. When you open up your list of insurance companies, here's what I'd like for you to do, because most of the time you're going to find duplicates based on the group number, okay? So if you tap on the top of this group number column, okay, right here, just tap on the top of that column, it's going to resort it, okay? So what it will do is it'll resort this column, so then it's going to be easier for you to find the duplicates, okay? So you can see here I've got 2 of the 01278s. even though they're titled differently, they might be a duplicate because they have the same group number. And then if I scroll down a little bit, I might see a couple other duplicates. I've got 2 chevrons, 87663 group number. And I've got one that's titled Chevron, and I've got one that's titled Chevron Gas. So if I saw that, I'd probably think that those are duplicates, okay? Now, you may end up with triplicates or quadruplicates, so you might have, that's probably not even a word, you might have multiple insurance plans, because what happens over time is you have team turnover. The average rate of team turnover is every 18 months. And so every 18 months, you might have a new team member coming in here and really not searching for an insurance plan, and they just add a new one, okay? So let me show you the Dentrix way on how to clean up duplicate insurance plans. So the first thing that you can do is join the plans together, all right? Right here. Joining plans together, what it does is it moves all the patients from one plan into another, okay? So if I click on this button, oh, I forgot to tell you, this is one thing that everybody has to be out of Dentrix. So let me close down everything else except for my office manager. Let's see. Oops. Uh-oh, I didn't want to do that. See, I blew up my resolution, so now I can't see all the icons on the lower. So I can't close them because I can't see them. All right, I'm going to close this down, and I'm just going to open up my office manager. Okay. And where was that chevron? Oh, let's see. How do I close these down? Third party patient chart. I need to close down the patient chart. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Close that. Close that. All right. Okay, here we go. When you join plans together, so plan to plan, so I'm moving all the patients from one plan into another. So the source plan is the plan you want to empty out, and the destination plan is the plan that you want to move all the patients into, okay? So I'm going to pick my duplicate chevron. Here we go. And then I'm going to move all the patients into that other chevron, this one. All right? So I'm moving all the patients from this plan into this plan. All right? And then as soon as I click join, all right, then it's successfully joined those plans together. It hasn't deleted any of the plans though. It hasn't removed it from the list. So, because if you'll notice here, I still have my chevron plan in the list. So the possibility of it being reused is very likely. So I do want to get rid of it. Now, then the last piece you can do, and this is the Dentrix way, and then I'm going to show you what I've been doing, is you can purge it and delete it. oh, there's a claim attached. It will not let you purge a claim, purge an insurance plan if there's attached claims attached to it. So that's kind of a one bummer that when you purge plans, sometimes it gets a little challenging to purge them if you have an open insurance claim. And how that could happen is if you do have an open claim, it's possible that you also have a secondary that's been created at some point, and now you have that secondary plan. You have that secondary plan.
Question.
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah.
Okay. The question is if you have a secondary?
No.
What's the question?
Will the insurance notes transfer over and notes for both plans show, or just the destination plan notes?
The destination plan notes. So if you purge the plan, so the question was is if you purge that plan or move that plan over, all it's doing is moving the patients over. It's not eliminating the plan. The notes are still there. But if you actually purge it, then that plan will be out of your system. Okay? So if you have notes in one of them, you may want to copy and paste those notes into your destination plan so you preserve any of those insurance notes. Great question. What I have found is anytime you purge an insurance plan and you have used it in the past. So let's say a couple years ago, you used this plan, you got paid on a claim, and now you're going to purge this plan. As soon as you purge the plan, because it's a duplicate, you want to get rid of it, if you go and look in your patient's history and you open up an old insurance claim, it is going to show in the carrier, it's going to say carrier not found. Now, if that's okay with you, if you don't really care about knowing what that plan was when that insurance claim got paid, then purge all the way. Purge as much as you want. I just want you to know that when you do purge, it will say carrier not found if you were to purge that plan and it has been used in the past. Okay? Just want to let you know that. In my experience, when I was in a practice, I didn't really like that. I liked knowing what carrier paid on that claim. And that was just kind of a personal thing, but for me, it seemed to work. And it seems like a lot of other practices that I've worked with really liked that idea of preserving the name at least. So what I've started to do is, if I'm going to get rid of this plan here, then what I like doing is I'm just going to put like a bunch of Z's in front of the carrier name, because it's going to alphabetize by carrier name. So right here I just put a bunch of Z's in front of the MetLife, and because then what it will do is it's just going to push it to the bottom of the list. It'll give you some warnings, but I can just click through all those warnings, because then it pushes it to the bottom of the list. Okay? So now I know that if I see an insurance plan that's got a bunch of Z's in front of it, I know that I'm not going to use that plan. And that should be a trigger for your entire team to know that if they're adding a new patient and they're attaching insurance to a patient, that then you wouldn't use that plan. So for example, if I go to a patient's family file, and I go in here and I'm looking for an insurance company, it's always going to pull it up alphabetically by carrier. Okay? So if I'm searching for an employer and I'm searching for Chevron, okay? See how it pulls up both of them, but you see one of them has a bunch of Z's in front of it, okay? So I like that way a little bit better. I know it still holds the duplicate in your list, but then you don't lose that old history if that carrier has been used in past claims, you know. So you can do it either way, whichever way you like better. Whichever way you like better. So first join the plans and then decide, do I want to purge? Do I want to purge that plan? Or am I just gonna flag it with some Z's? You could even go to this one and you could change this to do not use. So then you could put do not use, but you can still see that it says that was a Chevron plan. I think we have another question.
Is there a way to add a new employer while setting up a new insurance plan without getting out of the process?
Is there a way to add a new employer? Employers are added from the family file. So if you were going to do a new, and you needed to do an employer, it has to already be in the list. So employers are added from the family file. So what you would want to do is when you're building that family file, add the employer on the family file first. It can't happen from here because I don't have any kind of add button in the insurance maintenance screen. So I hope that answered your question. But that's a good thing for development if you want that to happen. All right, any more questions about cleaning up your insurance plans? Good? Yeah? Another question?
I think, but I'm trying to find it, so we may have to come back.
Oh, that's okay. I'll let you look. So why don't we do our first drawing?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Is that a great idea?
It's a great idea.
Okay, cool. All right. So we've got lots and lots of names in our list. Like I said, 548 people registered. Kev, why don't you draw a name from the list and hand it to me, and then I will read the name. All right, so we're going to give away, oh, where's my gift card? We're going to give away a gift card to Maria Ayala, A-Y-A-L-A, Maria. I have your email address here, Maria, so I'm going to email you after the event, get your address, and mail you your gift card, okay? Did you find the question? Is there lots?
No, it's... How do you choose which one to keep and which one to not?
Okay, great question. How do you choose? So you could do a couple things. One thing you could do is find the plan that has the most patients in it and keep that one, and eliminate the one that has the fewer amount of patients. And the way you could do that would be to run a insurance carrier list. Whoops. You could do this, an insurance carrier list, and then you can find out how many patients are in this plan, how many patients are in this plan, and then you can decide. So if I was to look at, let's say I want to find, so you can see here I've got two Circuit Cities, I got a duplicate here, Circuit City and then Circuit City employees. So I could search just on those two insurance plans. And so what this list is going to show you is how many patients are on each plan. So you can see on here, here's the Circuit City, and here's Circuit City employees. Circuit City has 7 employees, or 7 patients attached to that plan, and this one, Circuit City employees, has 0. Okay, so technically, you could actually just purge this Circuit City employees without even merging them or joining them together. But if this one had maybe 2 employees and this one had 7, or in your case, you know, you have a live patient database, if this one had 50 and this one had 10, you've obviously used this one more. So I would probably join, this would be the source plan, and this would be the destination plan. Does that make sense?
We have 2 questions.
Okay, great.
Number 1, I just added the source plan and it grayed out the destination information. What should I do?
Make sure that you have selected plan to plan. When I brought up that window, you at the top you have employer, and then you've got plan to plan. Make sure that you have selected plan to plan, and then it should work.
All right, and the second one is there any way to save any generated report in Dentrix to a PDF for future use or reference rather than having to continually generate these super long reports or waste paper in printing them?
You can generate PDF reports, and the way you can do that is first view the report in the batch processor, go to File, and click Print Report. Okay? Don't send it to the printer, otherwise it's going to go to your default printer. So if you click on Print Report, then in your printer drop-down menu, some offices have installed a PDF printer, so that's one way. The other way is to send it to the Dentrix Document Center and then store it in your document center. So those 2 options, you can create reports into a PDF. All right, good? Good questions. All right, I'm excited. All right, next thing that we're going to move on to is inactivating providers. And I go into offices a lot where, you know, especially with conversions where, you know, you've brought over your entire database from your previous software and you have all these providers that don't work in your practice anymore, and now we have to clean them up. And a lot of those providers still have accounts receivable. And that's going to be our third topic that we talk about. But let's just first talk about how to inactivate these old providers, these old team members. So this is another thing that everybody has to be out of Dentrix to do. I'm going to get through at least, you know, a little bit of it, and then I'll show you how far I can get. So we're going to go here to the resource setup. This is where all your providers and your team members, all your practice information is stored. And so when we go in here, then, you know, here's your list of providers and here's your list of team members, and you can inactivate providers and team members. When you inactivate a provider, you can still see them in the list. So if I click on List Inactive, it will show me all the providers that I've inactivated. I've inactivated Oscar, who was our orthodontist. He's no longer with our practice. So I inactivated Oscar. So if you are going to inactivate a provider, maybe, you know, Paula, our periodontist, doesn't work at our practice anymore. I'm going to inactivate Paula. And then you're going to get this screen, okay? And a lot of you don't really know what happens when I inactivate a provider. You know, what happens to the history? Well, it doesn't touch history at all. So don't worry about inactivating a provider because it will not change over any of the history. You will preserve all of that. So clinical notes get preserved, all the ledger history gets preserved. So here's what happens when you inactivate a provider. If this provider, Paula, is the primary provider on any patient's family file, then the new provider will replace her as the primary provider. So that's one thing that will happen. Any future appointments that are scheduled with that provider will get replaced with the new provider. Any treatment plan records that haven't been completed, any future office journal reminders. So it gives you the whole list right here. I'm just trying to name off some of the biggies, you know. So here's the whole list of things that's going to be switched over. Yes, we have a question.
If you inactivate a provider and in the year you assign some money to an inactive provider, then what will that inactive provider receive will show on the practice analysis report for the year?
Yes, it will. We're going to kind of get to that next. We're going to show that next, what happens. Because you can still apply payments to an inactive provider. So this is the process of inactivating your providers. This is one thing that does need to happen with everybody out of Dentrix. And so I also recommend that you do it from the server, especially practices with large databases. It's also good that you do a backup, and you do have to have everybody out of Dentrix. You really should have a good backup. And I would recommend you do it on the server, because sometimes this process, if you have a lot of records, if you have a lot of data, a lot of history, then it could take a while to do this process. So those are a couple tips that I would recommend. So I would just select, who am I replacing? If you don't have a new periodontist in your practice, then just replace the provider with the owner of the practice. We have a question. Yes?
Question/comment. Someone is saying that this feature no longer works with G7.3 update. I spent 45 minutes with support to do a workaround. Any ideas?
I haven't heard that, because I'm on G7.3 update 1, and I inactivated a provider yesterday. So I'm not sure. I don't necessarily know that it's a G7.3 problem. I haven't heard that it's a known issue.
Do you have to be on the server then?
Maybe that might have changed, because since I only have one workstation, I am the server. Try it from the server. I recommend you inactivating providers from the server anyway, just because it's faster. I haven't heard that this was moved to the server, but you know, I don't always hear everything. A lot of times I hear from you guys, so I can definitely look that up and then, you know, post an update on our Facebook page if I hear anything new about that. Is there another?
Yeah, but they're flying in, so I'm having to go back here.
Okay. That's okay.
Keep going. I'll find it.
Okay. So again, inactivate. Here's the whole list of things that'll happen. I have another module open, so I'm just going to click cancel at this point. But as soon as you click OK, it's going to run through some records, and then it'll take the provider out of the list. So what is it actually like? What does it look like after you inactivate a provider? So I have many practices use the provider AR totals report. So here's the provider AR totals report, and I wanted to show you because I inactivated this provider just yesterday, and so it does show that this provider, now I don't, like I said, I don't have a huge database, so I don't have a lot of accounts receivable in my system like you do. But what you will see if you run this report is you will see providers with a lot of accounts receivable in that beginning balance. So let me just kind of tell you what this report is. This is one of my favorite reports in Dentrix because I am a huge advocate of always looking at net production. I always want to look at net everything, net production, net collections, because that is what's actually collectible. That's what actually you're going to have for like real revenue is anything that's net, okay? So what this report shows you is here's all your providers over here on the left side of the report. The beginning balance, so in your practice, I mean, you could have hundreds of thousands of dollars listed in this beginning balance. What that is that's the beginning accounts receivable balance for that provider, which is the ending balance from the previous month. Now, this is dependent on whether you have run month end, okay? Now, it could be that I might not be caught up on month end on my test database. And so this beginning balance was the ending accounts receivable from last month, okay, for this provider. Then we've got gross charges, so that's production, gross production, adjustments to the production, and then here's your net production for each provider, and then your grand total, okay? Here's your collections. So we've got payments, gross collections, adjustments to collections, and then net collections. And then here's your ending accounts receivable. So when you run month end, this ending accounts receivable will then get moved over into the beginning accounts receivable for the next month, okay? Does that make sense? All right, good, awesome. Yes, question?
So we have a couple of questions. I'm going to merge into one here.
Okay.
Are these things we can be doing at home right now?
If you have login rights, yes. You have to have some kind of a remote access. Log me in, go to my PC, Team Viewer. Those are the top three that I'm hearing. Those give you remote access to your software. So it's like you're actually working on your computer. You're just, at home. So yes, you can do any of that from home. So you'll see here, I've got my ortho, here I have my inactive patient, my inactive provider that I inactivated. That provider did do some production this month, all right? So when money comes in, okay, when I start applying payments, or maybe it's an outstanding insurance claim, when that money comes in, then that inactive provider will get paid off. So you can apply payments to an inactive provider. Yes, we have a question.
Can you share your thoughts on those adjustment numbers at the bottom? How to determine what is production adjustment versus collection?
Great question. I get this a lot. I know it's a little bit off topic, but I am going to explain that to you. I have consulted with a lot of dental CPAs and other dental consultants, and that's where I come up with my determination of what's a production adjustment and what's a collection adjustment. So here's my recommendation based on my conversations with CPAs and other consultants, okay? Collection adjustments is anything that would affect the checkbook, okay? So you'll see here I've got patient refunds, non-sufficient funds checks, insurance refunds, anything like that that would affect the checkbook belongs on the collection side. Everything else is a production adjustment. Now, a couple exceptions is if you, I have my transfer balance charge and my transfer balance credit on the collection side. The reason I have it set up that way is because if my if my providers are paid on collection. Okay, so that's why that's there too. So definitely talk to your CPA about that, just to make sure they're on the right side, but that's how I have mine set up. Another question, yes?
How do you make an adjustment to production?
So anytime you make an adjustment on the patient ledger, on this report, then it's going to put it either on the production side or the collection side. Let me show you how to move those around. So here's my provider AR totals report, and see this button right here? I'm going to click on that button right there. And this is where you now have the opportunity to move your adjustment types to one side or the other. So in your practice, you might have, 30 or 40 adjustments. Now the way the Dentrix default is they put all the negative credit adjustments on the production side, and they put all the positive charge adjustments on the collection side. So you have to be the one to move them around, all right? So you may then move them to the right category. And this is where you may want to have that conversation with your CPA to make sure that you're getting it correctly. Okay. So let's go back to just looking at this report really quick, because I just want you to know that in your practice, I want you to kind of know what you're going to be looking at if you pull up this report, is you may have a lot of providers over here that are showing inactive. I get that a lot with conversions. Practices that are converting from an old software like a PracticeWorks or an EagleSoft or SoftDent, and they're converting to Dentrix, and it converts with a lot of inactive providers. Or it converts with a lot of providers that no longer work in the practice, and now we need to inactivate them. But these providers have massive accounts receivable. So one thing that you might find is you might find that you have inactive providers that with massive accounts receivable, and then your owner doctor has a large credit, right? You see that a lot? I know I do. I see that a lot in practices. So what that means is over time, ever since you've been on Dentrix, or maybe in your old software, your practice was applying the payments to one provider, and that might be the owner doctor. And that's how it's always been, and nobody knew any different. So you might have hygienists that have massive accounts receivable because you've never allocated payments to those providers, okay? And so this report will show that pretty clearly if you need to reallocate that money. And that's kind of our next topic that we're going to move on to. So if there's no other questions about inactivating providers, we're going to move on to payment allocation.
This may be one.
Uh-huh. You're doing great.
I'm trying here.
I know. You're doing great.
If you move these adjustments from collection to adjustments from collection to production adjustments, will it change past ledgers if months are still open?
No, it doesn't do that. What it does is it just removes it on this report. It doesn't do anything to the patient ledger. Because on the patient ledger, it's either a credit adjustment or a debit adjustment. It's either a credit adjustment or a charge adjustment. It's either a plus or a minus. It doesn't change anything on the ledger. All we're doing here is kind of designing our report the way we want the adjustments to look on the report. So no, it doesn't do anything to the patient ledger at all. Great question though. All right. Thought I had another comment I was going to come up with, but maybe I'll think of it. Good?
So do you recommend using the allocated? I'm trying to read it on there.
Okay.
Because it's slow to come up on here. Why don't you do a drawing? Maybe.
Do a drawing?
Yeah,
okay.
do a drawing, and maybe
Yeah.
I'll get this.
I think it's good to do a drawing. Okay, I'm gonna draw my good friends at Henry Schein 1 and Dentrix. They provide these awesome, I love these journals. I use them all the time. I'm gonna be giving away 2 of them today. So I'm gonna draw, or Kev's gonna draw a name. I don't wanna be, biased or anything. All right, so we have Bridget Minensky, Bridget Minensky, B-R-I-G-I-T, Bridget, M-I-N-E-T-Z-K-E, Bridget. Okay, I am going to email you because I have your email address. I'm going to email you and get your address, and I will mail this to you.
And while you're doing that, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So do you recommend using the allocating credit balances?
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
That's next.
There you go.
That is next.
That's a perfect lead-in.
That is. That's a perfect lead-in. So what I'm going to do is there's a name on the floor. We don't want this person to be out of the drawing. Okay. So where I'm going to start with allocations, because this is a pretty big topic, and this is one thing that has changed from G 7.2 to 7.3. Okay. So I'm going to show you the old way, and I'm going to show you the new way. And then this is one thing that I can send you a tip sheet on. So those of you that have registered will get this tip sheet in your inbox. But where I'm going to start is I'm going to start from the foundation level first, because I think it's really important that you all understand what even causes ledgers to be all messed up, and what causes the allocations to be all messed up, okay? And what causes all of this to get messed up. So I'm going to start from the ground level up and start with the foundation. So on the Office Manager, if you go to Practice Setup and you go all the way down here to Preferences, we're going to start here, okay? And what we're going to look at is we're going to look at this section right here, okay? Right here. Payment Adjustment Options. This is the setup, and this drives how your patient payments get allocated to the ledger. This is what drives that. And so when offices ask me, it's applying this payment to this hygienist that hasn't been here in 10 years. And I'm like, yep, it's exactly right. And as the first place we look is here, is how do you have your allocation set up, and why is it doing that? Because over time, you may change this allocation. Somebody in the office may have changed this allocation. Maybe you didn't know it. And maybe somebody in the office overrode the payment on the ledger. So there's so many things that go into how the payments get allocated to the ledger. So, but we're going to start here first. So, in the patient, I'm going to start right here in the middle, just because I'm going to show you. In the patient allocation drop-down menu, you have 3 choices, okay? If you have your system set up at family account, every time you post a patient payment, personal payment, I'm not talking about insurance payments. This is a patient payment. When you apply a patient payment to the ledger and you have your allocation default set up at family, it's going to apply that entire payment to the guarantor, okay? Regardless of whose ledger you have up on the screen. So I see this a lot in pedo offices, where they're like, we're just going to put all the payments to the head of household. So whoever is the guarantor on the account gets all the payments. I see that a lot in pedo practices. I'm not saying that any of these processes are right or wrong. All I'm doing is explaining to you what they do, and then it's up to you to decide how do I want my system to apply payments, okay? So my goal today is just to give you a really good understanding of how it works, and then it's up to you and your doctor to decide how do you want it to be set up in your practice. So family account will apply the entire patient payment to the guarantor. Question, yes.
How did you get to that screen you're on right now?
Okay, good question. Go to your office manager. Go to office manager, maintenance, practice setup, whoops, preferences. So I'm right here under preferences. Okay. So family account applies the payment to the guarantor. Current patient will apply that payment to the current ledger you have on the screen right now. One patient, whoever the current ledger is. Split by family members will split that payment up to family members that have balances. Okay? So this was a relatively new feature a couple years ago. I don't know all the exact version, but split by family members will split that payment up. Now, under provider, the drop-down menu in the provider is guarantor's primary provider. So if the guarantor's primary provider is DDS1 and the treating doctor is DDS2, and you apply a payment to that patient's ledger, it's still going to apply the payment to DDS1, regardless if DDS2 treated the patient. Okay? Split by provider will split that payment up to the different providers. So, for example, let's say a patient comes in today and they have a checkup and cleaning. They do exam, $50 exam with the doctor, DDS1, and they do a prophy and 4 bite wings with the hygienist for $150. So they have a balance of $200. If you have it set up at split by provider, it's going to apply $50 to DDS1 and $150 to the hygienist, hygiene one. Okay? If you have it set up as to guarantor's primary provider, then it's going to apply $200 to DDS1. And so now DDS1 will have a $150 credit on that provider AR totals report, and the hygienist will still have a $150 accounts receivable on that provider AR totals report. Okay? Does that make sense? Good. So what can happen over time is if you have changed your allocation method. So if you started off with guarantor primary provider, when you first started Dentrix, you're like, our owner doctor is getting all the payments, he's the owner, all the payments go to him. If you started that and you did that for 3 years, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we're bringing in an associate now, and now our associate gets paid on collections, and now you change your split. Now you're going to split by provider. Okay, you hear what I'm saying? Now it's going to start paying off those old hygienists money, because now you're splitting by provider, and those hygienists still have accounts receivable from 5 years ago. Getting the picture? All right. Now the split method right here, this drop down menu right here, there's only 2 in this list I would recommend. First in, first out will always look to the oldest balance first, regardless of the insurance estimate, okay? Regardless of the insurance estimate. It looks at oldest balance first, okay? Guarantor estimate is actually my favorite choice. What it looks at is if the patient comes in today and they have a checkup and cleaning, $200. If they have a $25 copay and they have a $500 previous balance and they give you $300, it's going to apply $25 to the copay for today first, and then it's going to apply the balance of that $300 payment to first in, first out. Okay, that's how that one works. I don't use percentage or equal payments. I just don't use it. So hopefully that gives you at least the ground level, the foundation of how all these ledger allocations even come about. Okay, now, deep breath. Now, even if you have it set up this way, your team can still override that payment on the ledger. So that's where we're going to come into how do I fix these ledgers, because they're all messed up now. Okay.
Do you have to alter these settings on each workstation?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have ledgers that might not be accurate, okay? And you're looking at your provider AR totals report and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to clean this up. And you really have to decide why you want to clean it up. Why are you cleaning up your ledgers? Because it's not required. You don't have to clean up your ledgers. It could be that you are selling the practice and the accountants or the attorneys want to see cleaner reports. Maybe that's why. Maybe you just brought on an associate, or your doctor's going into partnership with another doctor and now they're getting paid on collections. And so now it's really critical that you are applying the payments correctly to the patient ledgers. So you really have to decide, do I really want to tackle this, and why am I going to tackle this? So I'm going to assume that there's some ledgers in my system that are messed up, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to clean up your ledgers, okay? The first way I'm going to show you is pre 7.3. So if you are on a version prior to 7.3, we're going to start there. So the report you're going to use is called the Provider Credits Report, okay? And the way you get to that report is here in the Aging Report. We're going to click on the Aging Report. And then I'm going to click here into the Provider Credits right here. I'm going to generate a Provider Credits Report. So this is prior to G7.3. Now, of course, your report is probably going to be quite a bit longer than mine. But I want you to kind of understand what is showing on this report, okay? So what this shows you is, even though this family here, see this Keller family, Michelle Keller, she's the guarantor. We have the Keller family, they have a 0 balance, okay? But if you look over here, we've got DDS1 still has an accounts receivable balance of $64.95, and then we've got the pedo provider who has a credit. So what that means is someone on the team posted the payment to the pedo provider and did not pay off the DDS1. So that could have happened in an override, like somebody might have just changed the payment. However it happens, it happened. Now this is how we clean it up. So when you're working through this report, I would always start with the families that have a zero balance, okay? Because that's the easiest ones to allocate because there's no insurance estimates to really work around, there's no balances to work around. It's pretty self-explanatory just to shuffle money around, okay? So this is the report you'll be working from if you are on version 7.3 or prior, okay? It could be a couple hundred pages long, seriously, it really could. So you can, if you're working from home, you can generate this report and save it in a PDF file so you can just kind of work from it from home. I don't know that you can print from home unless you have that worked out with your IT person. That might be a little bit more challenging to actually print from home. But if you go into the practice, you could print this report and work from it from home.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you split the payment by patients, will it pay the older balance first?
If you have it set up with first in, first out, yes. Okay, so here's the Keller family. You can see they have a zero balance. So here's Michelle Keller. She has a $64.95 balance. And if I go up to view, I need to find out, okay, so obviously if she has a balance, someone in the family has a credit balance, okay? So I've got Nina, she has a $21.67 credit. And then there's Tabitha. Tabitha has a credit. And Richie has a credit. Okay, so you probably see this a lot in your ledgers, right? Okay, so here's the old way. This is what I have to do. I have to first make adjustments to every ledger, okay? So I'm going to do an adjustment, and I'm going to get rid of Michelle's credit first, or balance first. $64.95. And I'm going to transfer that balance, okay? So now Michelle has a zero. Now I'm going to go to Nina. Nina has $21.67. I've got to do an adjustment, a charge adjustment of $21.67. Transfer balance. All right, then I've got to go to Tabitha. And I have to do an adjustment. See why a lot of offices don't want to do this? Because it's very time consuming. And then Richie, then I've got to get rid of his credit. $21.64. Okay, so I've moved the money around from patient to patient to get rid of their credit balances. So now each patient has a zero balance. My family balance is still zero. So that's good. I did all the adjustments correctly. Now, the last step is I have to go in and allocate those credit balances. Before I do that, I kind of skipped a step. I'm going to show you how to set up the allocation first. So right here, go to File, go down here to Allocation Options Setup. What you want to make sure is in your Allocate Balances adjustments that you have transfer balance credit, transfer balance charge. Now, the reason why that's so important is that anytime you're moving money from one patient to another or one provider to another, those two adjustment types should always balance each other out. It should always be a wash. So anytime you're running an adjustment report or you are looking at that provider credits or that provider AR totals report, those two adjustment types should always be on the same side, either the production side or the collection side, because those two adjustments always, they're a wash. They always cancel each other out, okay? So now that I have that set up, I'm going to go up here to Transaction, Allocate Credit Balances. So this is prior to G7.3. This is how you're going to do it. So here's my family. Now, since I'm on 7.3, your screen's going to look a little different. Here's what you're going to have on your screen. You're going to have two options up here. One is going to say family account and one is going to say patient. I want you to click patient, and then you're going to do the allocation for every family member, each individually, okay? Okay, so I'm going to look at my family members. I can't see, my screen goes off the charts. So what you're going to see is each family member. So you're going to click on patient. Then you're going to see your patient here, and then you're going to either click on guarantor estimate or first in, first out. And then you're going to click OK to post. Okay? So that's if you are prior to G7.3. I'm already on 7.3, so I know my screen looks a little different than yours. Allocate credit balances, and then you're going to get a window. Up here, so ignore this right here, you're going to have family or patient, click patient, select your first in, first out or guarantor estimate, and then you're going to click OK to post. Alright, you're going to have to do that for each family member. The whole Keller family, you have to do that, okay? So that's why it kind of takes a while. But, so this is a great project for our downtime right now. Okay, questions? Is there a question?
Yes. When we do such adjustments, it changes the account's delinquent intervals and the due balance is changed. For instance, if the account was over 90 days old.
Yes.
Okay. How can we prevent this?
You can't if you're prior to 7.3.
Okay.
If you're prior to 7.3, what it does is it will make those adjustments on the ledger, which is what you want. You want to reallocate that money to the providers, but it does change the aging of the account back to current. There is no way for us to change that. That's just how it is prior to 7.3. Yes.
Could you explain again why you wouldn't do family members?
Because you have moved the money per each individual patient, you want to make sure that it reallocates each individual patient ledger independently. If you click family, then it's only going to shuffle money for the guarantor. So you want to make sure you click patient so that you are then reallocating the money for each individual patient ledger. So because there are providers in each individual patient ledger that also need to be allocated.
And speaking of 7.3, will you at some point today be talking about some of the main changes you like?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We're going to do that at the end.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to show you 7.3, the allocation. So this is one of my probably one of my favorite new features in 7.3, since the question just came up. I am going to go through some 7.3 feature updates at the end, but right now this is one of the biggies. So when I go to File, we now have this Provider Credit Balance Manager. Okay, so when I click on the Provider Credit Balance Manager, come on, there we go. I want to do all, just so I get my big report. Just like this should match exactly to the provider credits report. So I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to click OK to all. And then I get my list of accounts that have allocation mishaps, okay? And it could be that maybe the family balance is 0, but I have one patient that has a credit and one patient that has a balance. That could be the problem. I could have an account that still has a balance, but the ledgers in the history have not allocated the payments to the correct provider. I don't really know, and to be perfectly honest, I don't really care, because so you can see here, a couple of them have a 0 balance, one of them still has a balance, and one of them has a credit, okay? I don't have to go in and individually move the money from one patient to another, because this credit balance manager is going to do all of it for me, okay? It's just magical. And so I'm just going to show you how it works. So this is one of my favorite G7.3 features. So I'm going to click on this Olson family right here. They have a 0 balance, but they have some allocation problems. I'm going to click on my little arrow right here. See this? Whoop, right there. Whoop. And I'm going to click on my either guarantor estimate or first in, first out. All right. I personally like guarantor estimate, so I'm going to click that. See how it's reshuffling money? Let me expand these. Okay. You can see here how it is moving money from one provider to another. $214 was applied to the wrong provider. Okay? And since I have, oh, there we go, okay. Yeah, all right. They drop off my list. It probably cuts your allocation process in half. I mean, seriously, this is one of the best features in 7.3, in my opinion. I'll just show you another one. I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to see how there's multiple family members. So I've got multiple family members. This is nice because it does do the whole family at the same time. So I've got Peggy, Samuel, and Alan. They all have money that's been allocated to the wrong providers. It could be that, see how we've got credit balances up here, but then we got balances down here. I'm going to click on my guarantor estimate and OK to post. And then they drop off the list. Good? I know that's kind of the biggest topic that we were going to talk about today. And this is one of those tedious, time-consuming, repetitive projects that you never have time for, right? And now we have time. We have a lot of time on our hands right now. Yes, question.
Would you mind showing again how to get to this screen?
Yes. So from the ledger, go to File, Provider, Credits, Balance, Manager. Now's a great time to upgrade. I mean, what better time to, you know, upgrade to 7.3, take advantage of some of these great new features, and clean up your system. Yes, another question.
What if I did family member on 1? Is there a way to correct this?
Yes, you could individually delete the adjustments off the ledger and then start again. Yes, the other question.
Do you need to have transfer balance credit and transfer balance charge set up if you've recently upgraded to 7.3?
Hopefully it's already in the adjustment list, but if you don't have those two adjustments, and then you can change them. I'll show you how to do that. So adjustment types are in the practice definitions. So from the office manager, maintenance, practice setup, definitions. And in the drop-down menu, we're going to go to adjustment types. Okay, another one of my favorite features of G7.3 Update 1 is now we have, you know, in the past we could only have 40 adjustments. We can have 255 now. So that will help a lot of you that want more adjustments and you've run out of space. So if you don't have transfer balance credit and transfer balance charge, so here's my transfer balance credit, transfer balance charge, you should have those two in the list. If you have one that says patient transfer balance credit, and then you have a provider transfer balance credit, I would recommend consolidating down, because with the new G7.3 update, it does patient transfers and provider transfers all in one process. So I would condense your adjustment types to transfer balance credit and transfer balance charge, those two. Yes?
You're getting a ton of questions.
Okay, good.
Let's start with this one. Does everyone need to be signed out of Dentrix to use Provider Credits Balance Manager?
No.
Okay. All right. I want less adjustments. Can something be done? I'm trying to read what that says. Sorry.
Like, can you get rid of some of your duplicates and streamline your adjustments? Kind of, yes. So you have to remember that adjustments have been used in the ledger history. So it's possible that you can delete adjustments out, but you also have to remember you have to replace it with a new adjustment.
Can some be inactivated? That was the second part of that question I couldn't see.
Kind of. They can kind of be inactivated. Now, if you delete a definition, delete an adjustment type, again, you do have to give it a replacement adjustment type, because that adjustment has been used in patient history. And so if you're going to give it a replacement, it has to be something really similar, okay? What I notice in a lot of practices is you have a lot of adjustment types that are very similar. You might have in-office write-off, miscellaneous, credit adjustment, and all of those are very generic, very vague. So I think that any of those can kind of be merged together Like in-office write-off and write-off are very similar. So if you're going to inactivate write-off, you could replace it with credit adjustment. They're both very vague. So that's one thing you could do. But if you had two of the same, this is how you would do that. Delete one out of your system. Question?
How would you even start this project? What report would you run to get a patient list to do this?
It'd be hard to get a patient list, but you can get a list of all your adjustment types to find out kind of where to start. You can get a list of your custom practice information. So the custom practice information will at least show you, let's see. So the custom practice information will show you all the adjustment types that you have in your system right now. And this is probably a good place to at least see if you have duplicates and which ones you might be able to merge together. Because I bet when you look at this list, you're going to find adjustments that are very similar. Like I said, write-off, in-office write-off, miscellaneous credit, credit adjustment. There's 4 right there that I see in lists in adjustments all the time that are all 4 very vague. And so you could combine 3 of those into one and then have 3 now open spots for adjustments. So this is a good place to start. You can kind of see where you can merge adjustments together.
In the new upgrade, do we get more than 10 appointment statuses?
In the appointment? Okay, since that's off topic, I'm gonna leave that one for the end. I also want to show you how to get an adjustment report if you do want to see the patients that have been assigned to the adjustment types. So if you want to see your adjustments in the category and see all the patients that have had that adjustment applied to them, you can do an adjustment only day sheet. So if you go to reports and go to your day sheet, then you can do an adjustment only day sheet. So you could pick your date range. Now, if you picked like a really large date range, you're going to get a massive report. So you kind of have to be aware of that. Don't print it right away. Just send it to the batch and then view it. But if you do an adjustment only day sheet, it's going to show you each adjustment type and then all the patients that has had that adjustment in their ledger. So that might be a good way to kind of see if you've even used those adjustment types before. Okay. Okay, so questions? More questions about allocations? And
It's 10:30 Mountain Time.
okay.
We do not have any other questions on this. We're getting a lot of other questions off topic, so I'm trying to answer those as best I can.
Okay.
But if you want to do a drawing and then no time, just want to let you know.
Yeah, let's do a drawing. I'm always up for a drawing.
There we go.
Okay. We have something from let's do another gift card. Gift card. All right, Kev, you want to do the drawing?
You betcha.
Awesome. You're such a good assistant.
The pay's awesome.
I know. Free is always good.
There you go.
Okay, let's see. Rachel Middleton. Rachel Middleton, if you're online with us, give us a like or a love. Tell us that you won. I'm going to tape your name to the gift card so that I will email you when I'm done here to get your address, and I'll mail you off your gift card. Okay.
All right, we got a couple in that are on the topic you were just talking about.
Okay, perfect.
If we have closed out our month already, will it allow you to change the allocation?
Yes.
And will these adjustments show on patient statements?
No. Only if you want them to. So here's the allocation setup screen. So right here, itemize allocation, offsetting adjustments for billing statements and walkout statements. So if you do not want them to show up on patient statements or walkouts, make sure that is not checked. If you want those adjustments on statements, then check that box, but I don't recommend it. Patients will get so confused. The only time a patient would ever see that is if you actually physically printed them a ledger history, okay? But I don't recommend you doing that.
I say keep going. I'll try to feed these to you as best I can.
Okay, you're doing a great job.
And you're probably going to have to get some emails.
Yes.
Respond to people afterwards eventually too.
Yeah, definitely. So any questions that are coming in that are off topic, I'll be going through those after the event. And if if you have a question that's off topic, maybe just put your email address in your comment. Otherwise, I'll just message you directly through Messenger. Okay, last project that we're going to talk about is something that you can do during your downtime. And this is something that I worked with several practices over the last couple of weeks. I also see this as kind of a project for a lot of practices is cleaning up old treatment plans. And cleaning up your lists, cleaning up your reports. One thing that we can do now that we can have available to us when we come back to full steam ahead is a more accurate, more reliable patient database, okay? So I'm gonna go through a couple of reports that we can start cleaning up during this downtime right now. So the first report that I want to look at is how do you clean up old treatment? And what I would recommend is you have a conversation with your doctor and kind of talk about, give me some flexibility, give me some empowerment here to clean up these old treatments. And so give me some guidelines. If the treatment plan is X years old, if it's more than a year, if it's more than 2 years old, do I have the authority from you, the doctor, to clean up this treatment? So make sure you have that conversation first. You just don't start, cleaning up treatment plans, without your doctor's knowledge. But the report that I love to use is this one right here, the treatment manager. So those of you that know me, what do I call this report? What I have a nickname for this report. Do you guys know what it is? If you know what it is, put it in the comments. Anybody know what I call this report? I have a nickname for it. I call it mining for gold. And because this is a gold mine. And this is also going to be one of your best reports for getting your schedule full when the time comes. When we go back to work, it might be middle of May, it might be middle of June. I don't know when we're going back to work yet, but this report is going to help you fill your doctor's schedule, okay? So when you open up this treatment manager, it is my favorite report in Dentrix. It's going to look like this. I don't want you to get too overwhelmed with this. There's about 3 things in here that I want you to look at, that I want you to click and filter this report. Number 1 is I only want to look at patient treatment plans. I don't care about inactives and non-patients. You could filter it by provider. If you are a treatment coordinator and you're assigned to a specific doctor, Maybe you just want to look at that doctor's treatment. I'm just going to keep it at all for my demonstration. The other thing right here is dated from, okay? So when you are, okay, I'm going to give you two scenarios. First scenario is if you want to clean up old treatment, okay? Put in like January 1st of 1900, all right? Back in the 1900s. Up to maybe 12/31/2017, okay? So this is treatment that's been added to the treatment plan at least a couple years ago, all right? And then click OK, all right? I wouldn't want you to filter any of this other stuff. Leave all this other stuff at all, okay? So that's how I would filter to see old treatment. Now, when you get back to your practice, and now you're working this report on a weekly basis, then dated from, I want you to find treatment that is pretty current, all right, within the last 5 months, because you want to be reaching out to patients that have just come in for a treatment plan. So it's still fresh in their minds. You just want to reach out to them, see if they have any questions. So then in the dated from, I would just date back 5 months when we're back to work full steam ahead. Okay? But for right now, I'm gonna do a pretty big date range just because I don't have a lot of data in my system. Your report's gonna be much bigger than mine. Okay. So when you run this report, of course, you're going to have a lot of patients on here, okay? You've got your patient last right here, the date something was added to the treatment plan, what their treatment plan total is, if there's any estimated insurance, patient estimate. You can customize these columns as well. And then if there's any office journal calls, or any reminders, things like that. So when you want to work on this project right now, then you want to probably start with the oldest treatment. So you can tap on the top of this column, this last TP column, and it's going to resort it, and it's going to move all of the oldest stuff to the top, okay? So you can see here Mary Brown, she hasn't had anything added to her treatment plan since October of 2017, all right? Now in your system, you're probably going to have a lot more data, so you might have stuff in here from 2003 or 2005 or 2011, so you're going to have a lot of stuff in this last treatment. So this is where I would start right now to clean up this old treatment. So if I highlight Mary, I can open up her patient chart and I can see what's in her treatment plan. All right, so Mary she's got some extractions that were referred out to the oral surgeon. I know that because of the little R right there. She's got a root canal right there to do, and she's got a crown to do on tooth number 18. All right, but this is super old. This is like 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago. So depending on my agreement with my doctor, I can just get rid of this, okay? Now, I'm not deleting anything out of the treatment plan, okay? I don't have that, I would never do that because you are then deleting out clinical documentation out of your patient record, which you never want to do, all right? But if I have an agreement with my doctor and he says, yeah, sure, clean up old treatment, because then when the patient comes in, it forces your doctors to retreatment plan new stuff, okay? Because you never know what happens with patients with old treatment if that's been sitting there for years. So what you want to do is you want to reject it, all right? So click on that folder and you're going to reject this treatment, okay? It keeps it in the history, keeps it in the patient chart, but it just gets it out of the active treatment record. It gets it out of your treatment manager report. So as soon as I click reject, do we have a question?
Yes, but go ahead.
Oh.
Finish your thought.
Okay. Then as soon as I click reject, it's going to give me this comment box. All right, this is where you could say, maybe you put COVID-19 treatment cleanup project, okay? And, whoops. All right. COVID-19 treatment cleanup project. And so it's going to reject this case. Okay? So it's still there. All right, it's still there. But now I have a new fresh case. It's empty. And it keeps it in my history. All right? So now when the patient comes in, they come in for their checkup or a comp exam or something, then now the doctor can see, or the hygienist can see, what did we have on their treatment plan before, and now is that still current? Because your fees may have changed from 3 years ago. The patient may have completely broke that tooth off at the gum line. Who knows? You know, you never know what happens in patients' mouths over a 3-year period of time. But that's how you clean up. Reject it. Don't delete it. Did we have a question?
Is there a way to reject it and still have it appear on the odonogram?
On this? I don't know what an odonogram is.
Okay. She'll answer that one offline. Can you clarify this is based on date of treatment entered and not the date treatment plan was created?
That's correct. It's the date. Oh, it probably won't. Let's go back to our report. Let's go to someone else. Okay, it's based on the date the procedure code was added to the treatment plan. Okay? It is not looking at the date of the case. It's looking at the treatment, the procedure code date.
And Judy clarifies, yes, she means the tooth chart. Doesn't show up there.
That's true. So no, if you reject it, so if I'm going to reject this treatment, and you have to reject the whole case. So let's say, for example, the patient says that I'm not going to do that crown. Then you would have to put the crown in its own case. So if you're only going to reject this, or maybe you're only going to reject that, you have to reject the whole case. You can't just reject individual items. So if I reject that crown, then it does take it off the tooth chart. Yes, but it does keep it in the history.
All right. Two questions.
Okay.
Number one, will this count against your treatment acceptance case rate?
So, great question. Maybe just turn it off and back on.
Battery's down.
Oh, okay. Okay. If you're looking at treatment case acceptance, then if you accept the case, then it will show up as treatment case accepted. If you reject the case, then it shows up as unaccepted, of course. And so it will affect your treatment case accepted numbers. Yes. All right. While we fiddle with our technology for a second, I'm going to do another drawing. We're going to draw for my friends at Care Credit. I love them. And I will show you the integration with the Dentrix ledger, which happened a couple updates ago. It's not in G7.3, but they have this awesome camera. It is a sports camera. It's kind of like a GoPro. It's really awesome. We're going to draw for that. And Kevin is fiddling with our technology, so I'm going to draw from one of these people. Let's see, who is this? It is Thomas Novak. All right, Dr. Novak, I have your email, so I'm going to tape your name to this prize, and that way I can email you and get your address and mail you your new camera, courtesy of Care Credit. How we doing?
We're doing good. We are at 10:48.
Do we need to plug that in somehow?
Probably. We may have temporarily lost the recording aspect.
Okay.
But we're still live.
Okay.
So everything's good.
Okay.
So keep talking, and worst case, we will have this on replay on your Facebook page if people want to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, technology, what do? You kind of have to roll with it. So we're still live, but the camera has stopped recording. So the recording may stop right here, but that's just the way it goes, right? It's the way the ball bounces. Okay. Okay. Where I'm going to go next is, okay. I'm going to show you another list that you can be working on during this downtime. So I see this a lot. I see that when I do assessments or when I am working online with a practice, we're doing some training, online training, things like that. And one thing that I see a lot is the unscheduled list is just enormous. And so a lot of offices stop using it. Right now, during our downtime, is a great opportunity for us to clean up the unscheduled list, all right? So the unscheduled list, you're going to find it up here under appointment lists. Oh, and because of my screen resolution, it's too big for the screen. Oh boy, let's see. Let's see, I'll close that. I don't need that anymore. All right, I might have to put this in the window. Let's see if this helps. No, it's still too big. So I blew up my screen resolution so you can see it better, but this is a great opportunity for you to clean up your unscheduled list. So the unscheduled list is full of patients that have either been on your schedule and that's shaking. Okay. The unscheduled list are patients that have either been on your schedule and they've no-showed or they've broken their appointment, or these are patients that need an appointment now. Okay, so maybe they came in for crown prep today and they need a crown seat, and you create the crown seat appointment so you can attach the lab case, and then you wait, we'll call it, and it shows up here on the unscheduled list. So these are patients that need an appointment now. They could already be overdue. And so there's two ways to get patients on this list. You've either wait, will called the appointment, or you have broken the appointment. And so what happens over time is if nobody's working this list, like actively working this list, it gets really long. It gets massive. I have gone into office and purged 3,000 appointments off of this list. And so I highly recommend that this is a great time if you need to clean up your unscheduled list. Go through each appointment and see, do they still need to be on this list, or should I delete them off this list? With my screen resolution the way it is, you can't see the top of the report right now, unfortunately. So, oh, there we go. Woo! Look at that. Okay. So, for example, here's John Edwards. If I want to call John and find out, if he wants to get, scheduled again, then I would want to open up my office journal. I'm a huge fan of the office journal. Love, love, love the office journal to make all my phone call notes. But if you're just cleaning up this list and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like from, 2018, then you can go up to appointment and just delete it off this list. Okay? Don't worry about losing them because they will show up on another list. So, John's here for a comp exam in FMX. This patient's here for his perio maintenance. So he would show up on the perio maintenance overdue recare list, okay? So don't worry about losing them, but just don't keep them on this active unscheduled list. This report, in my opinion, when I teach this report, I would keep people on here for maybe max 3 months, okay? 3 months gives you enough time to give them probably 2 or 3 phone calls. 3 at the most. Once you've called them 3 times, I would kick them off this list. Now, if you want to go appointment by appointment, because right now you have some downtime, go through each appointment and see, is this still an active patient? Have they already come in for this appointment? It's possible that this is just a duplicate appointment, okay? Question.
They need to be deleted one at a time, correct?
You can. You can also purge the list. Right here. You can purge the list if you want. Now, I want you to be super careful, okay, when you do this, because if you'll notice, and I'm going to point this out right now, you'll notice that purge appointments and purge unscheduled appointments are right next to each other. I wish they wouldn't have done that when they built this list, but make sure if you're going to purge this list that you have selected purge unscheduled appointments and not purge appointments. Purge appointments will purge your appointment book. Yes?
Can you purge from the month-end wizard as well?
Yes. You can also purge through month end. You can set it up to purge like every 3 months, so it just keeps it fresh. Okay, so that's another project. All right, so we went through inactivating old providers. We went through duplicate insurance plans. We went through getting rid of old treatment. We went through allocating ledgers, cleaning up your ledger balances. We went through all of that. So hopefully, you all have lots of projects to work on right now. All right. Before we go to G7.3 updates, I'm going to do another drawing.
And we just had one more come in.
Another question?
On that topic.
Okay.
Can you purge specific to a date, but not month end?
Yes. You can give it a cutoff date. So you can go up to Purge Unscheduled Appointments, and then right here you can give it a cutoff date. So you could say purge everything from, 3 months ago. It could purge everything from 3 months ago, and then it'll just keep the 3 most current months on there right now.
Here's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
If we accidentally purge the wrong list, can it be reclaimed?
Only from a backup. Yeah. I had an office call me in a panic because they accidentally purged their appointment book, and they didn't even notice it for like 3 weeks. So by then it was too late to correct it with a backup. But that's the only way you can get it back is with a backup. All right. All right, let's see. I'm going to do another, thanks to Dentrix Henry Schein 1, we're going to give away another journal. And we've got Lissa Johnson from Spokane, current client, so she's the big winner. So I have your email address. I will send that off to you, I have your address, so I will send that off to you. So thanks for registering and being online with us. Okay, we're going to go through a couple of G7.3 features, and then we're going to wrap it up with our final drawing here in just a few minutes. Good? All right. Oops. All right. So one thing you will notice in 7.3 is there is a new feature called Smart Image. Back in the day, Dentrix had an exclusive relationship with Dexis. And when Dentrix knew that the exclusivity with Dexis was going to come to an end, they developed Smart Image. And what Smart Image is a image management system, and it allows users to use multiple different types of capturing software. Could be Gendex, it could be Romexis. There's a lot of them out there, and I don't know all of them. You'd have to go to the Dentrix website and look at the Dentrix Smart Image page, and then it shows you all of the current vendors that are available now with Smart Image. There's a couple things with Smart Image that I want to point out. And I'm going to bring this over just so I can put it in the middle of the screen. I'm going to go here to the setup because I want to show you a couple of the setup things with Smart Image. Smart Image is a visual of your patient images. They're just little thumbnails of the images. So you could potentially have CBCTs, panos, FMXs, digital photography, all in this Smart Image system tray, okay? What I want to show you is that you have the ability now with Smart Image that when you take an X-ray, and where another reason why Smart Image came about, and kind of some of the features of Smart Image is, a lot of offices used to take X-rays and they, like, a lot of times never got posted to the ledger. So offices were losing out on production dollars on X-rays. And so they built in a feature that would post the correct code to the patient ledger as soon as you post it, as soon as you take that image. So right here you can see this checkbox that says always select do not post codes. So if you choose not to use that feature in Smart Image, then you don't have to have it post the codes. Because let me just tell you a little bit about why you might want to do that. I'm a big fan of tracking production on the appointment book. And so if you're tracking production and goals on the appointment book, and you have your x-rays in the appointment and you set that appointment complete, it's going to post the charges to the patient ledger. Now, if you're also posting your x-rays to the patient ledger when you take the images, then it's also going to post x-rays to the ledger. So you could potentially have some duplicate transactions on the ledger. So you do have to be careful about that if you start using that new feature. Okay, another thing I want to show you about Smart Image.
Quick question. How did you get to Smart Image preferences?
It's on the patient chart right here. So normally you see Smart Image down in the system tray. You've got progress notes, clinical notes, and then you'll have Smart Image right here. Smart Image is part of the Dentrix update, but you do have to install it.
Is it an additional fee?
No. So here's the toolbar, the Smart Image toolbar, and then here's the preferences right here, this little gear. So let me show you another feature of the new Smart Image, and it has a new feature in it built into it called auto acquisition. So let me pull up a patient. So you all know if you have a crown that you posted, you have to send some kind of image, x-ray, or something to the insurance company. So I'm going to click into this claim information right here. And I'm going to click into my include attachments right here. And before I show you this, I'm going to go here to this gear right here, okay? And I'm going to click on this. First, I'm going to do this manage attachment sources, because this is where you can decide all the different sources that you could actually attach to your claim. So you've got Smart Image if you're using Smart Image, but you also still have Dexis if you're a Dexis user, a Dexis Legacy user. We can attach things from the Document Center. We can do screen captures. We can attach a file. We can do non-electronic attachments. This one right here is new. Okay, this is probably the biggest update with this new auto allocation feature, is that we can now attach a copy of our clinical note without doing a screen capture. It just attaches the whole note to the claim. My good friend and insurance expert, Teresa Duncan, has been talking about this in a lot of her lectures about how insurance companies are now asking for a copy of the clinical note instead of like a clinical narrative on the claim. So this is big. This is a big deal. And then right here, this is your auto claim attachment, this enable auto claim attachment. Now, as soon as you upgrade to 7.3 and this feature comes checked, okay, so it comes enabled. So what you're going to notice is as soon as you like go to batch a claim, you're going to see this auto attachment thing running. Okay, if you want to turn that off, you can uncheck that. And then I'm still in the gear. I'm in this attachment requirement setup. This is pretty amazing, and this might be a really good project for you right now if you are up to 7.3 and you want to take advantage of this new feature. It shows you all the insurance companies and the code, and what does that insurance company require as an attachment, okay? And So if I scroll down this list, you're going to see all the insurance companies that I have in my system and what do they require for each procedure code, okay? So you can see here I've got Cigna, and for the D4260, which is a perio surgery code, they want an x-ray and a perio chart. So if I have those two selected and I have my auto acquisition enabled, it could automatically attach those two pieces of information to my claim automatically. So it's pretty cool.
All right, you get a bunch of questions about this.
Okay.
Do you find that Smart Image slows down Dentrix?
I think anything that has graphics, and anytime you add something new to your computer system, it's going to slow it up over time. I haven't heard specifically that Smart Image has done that, but also have to remember that I don't work in an active practice every day. So you definitely want to, make sure that your system requirements are far and above what the update is requiring.
If you take an image and it's bad, will it still be posted?
Yes.
Even if you delete it?
Even if you delete it. That's a great question. I would have to find out the answer to that because I don't use it. I'll find out though.
And does it work with anything other than Dexys, like a CareStream or anything else?
It does work with other vendors, yes. So if you go to the Dentrix.com Smart Image page and you scroll down that page, there is a place where you can see who the current vendors are for using Smart Image. So yes, there are lots of vendors available. Okay. So here's where you can then add. So I'm going to add an attachment. Let me find a claim that. Oh wait, and we have people doing garden work across the.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. Let's see. I'm just going to set something complete. So I just want to show you what happens when you batch a claim. See how you get this auto attachment? So it's looking at this claim to see, does it need any information? It's looking at the codes, does it need any attachment? And then it batches up the claim because it didn't need an attachment. Now if I wanted to add an attachment manually, then I can come in here, attach a image. And then I'm going to attach, I could attach a clinical note. Oh, this person doesn't have any clinical notes. I could attach an image. I could attach something from the document center. So this is all. It looks a little different, right? If you haven't upgraded yet. This was actually 7.2. Smart Image came about with 7.2 in a very basic form. They've been adding on little feature updates up through 7.3, and so I just wanted to show you kind of some of the newest stuff.
One more question on
Yeah.
this. Can you show what one looks like that's already set up, and how does submitting to the Clearinghouse work?
That hasn't changed. Submitting to the Clearinghouse has not changed at all. The only thing that's changed is that new auto acquisition and the way that you can pull in a clinical note, and the attachment window is new. But submitting claims, submitting to the Clearinghouse is all the same.
do you have to use Dentrix when filing your claim? We use Renaissance.
There might be a difference, but I don't think the process is any different. Just the way you attach the image is different, but the way you process the claim will still be the same.
All right.
Good?
Yep, you're getting a lot of questions, so there'll be a lot of emails.
Okay,
I
sounds
have a
good.
feeling.
All right, sounds good. All right. So a couple other features that I talked about, you can now have with 7.3 update 1, you can have up to 255 adjustment types, which is great for a lot of you out there. Another new feature which I am super excited about, like uber excited, is that we now with QuickBill, you now have the ability to send a electronic billing statement, a true electronic billing statement with a link. They click on the link and they can pay their bill maybe through their mobile phone or through an email. So that's fantastic. That just happened. So gosh, lots of questions.
Lots of questions. Smart Images opened up Pandora's box here.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm pretty much done with my topics and my agenda for today. So I think what I will do is do the final drawing.
Actually,
yeah.
you have one more prize that has been donated.
Oh, really?
Rita Zamora is giving away a copy of her book.
Oh, she is?
On social media. Yes.
Awesome.
So she would love for you to include that.
Okay, awesome. We will do that. So Rita Zamora, go to Rita Zamora Connections. She is the expert on social media. So social media is definitely something that we will need as our practices get back to work. And right now, great communication with our patients through social media. So staying connected with your patients is really important. So Rita Zamora, this drawing is for you.
Michael McClure.
Very cool.
There you go.
All right, who got Rita's book? And this will be a signed book, right, Rita? Yes. Cheryl Hyer, H-Y-E-R. Cheryl with a C, C-H-E-R-Y-L. Cheryl, you won Rita's book. Rita will sign her book for you, and then I'll get that book, and I'll get your address, and then Rita will send you off that book. Awesome. Thank you. That's fantastic.
Did you have one more?
I'm going to do my last drawing.
Okay, cool.
Last gift card. So we've got one final gift card we're going to do, and then I'll just wrap up with questions for the rest of the time.
Sounds good. Oh, here. There you go.
Oh, thanks. Okay. We have Lindsay Davis. Lindsay Davis. I have your email. I'm going to tape you to this gift card. I will email you, get your address, and I will mail this off to you. Okay.
All right.
So we're going to wrap up just with questions for the rest of the time, and I'll just keep my screen up here depending on what the question is.
Well, just so you know, you have had 248 comments come in during this
Wow,
this time.
that's
So
awesome.
it's been a very interactive crew.
I can't wait to do another one. Okay, so
they've kept me very busy.
how many people want to do this monthly? In the comments, if you want to do it monthly, put monthly. If you wanted to do it quarterly, put quarterly. Because I'm going to be doing these more and, refreshing my technology so everything works perfectly. So let me know what you want to do, because I could do this every day, but I know that's probably not feasibly. Kev's like, no, we're not doing that every day.
Give me just a minute. It's a little slow pulling up the questions, but there have been a lot of them about Smart Image.
Okay.
You opened up Pandora's box, like I
Okay.
said, with that.
And let me just comment on Smart Image. Smart Image is definitely something that you could reach out to the Dentrix support department for sure. Any of the trainers can help you with Smart Image. All the trainers have access to a online classroom. So we all have the ability to do virtual remote training. So if you want training on Smart Image, if you want to install Smart Image, if you want to find out if it's even available for you, definitely reach out to the Dentrix support department or the sales department they can get that installed for you and then see if it's even available with your vendor.
You are getting tons of monthly.
Oh, okay.
So just so you know that.
Monthly.
So I think you're going to be officially busy.
Okay.
In 7.3, credit balance allocations, you had family members as a default. I'm up to the R's.
Oh.
How do I how do I default that? How do I default that?
Well, I think you want to look and see if you have. Let's see. I don't know if we can see if we can default that. Let's see. Wow, you just are on it.
And are you doing CE?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I have a CE code.
Well, finish your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like we can default that because this is the setup. I don't see that we can default that. We can default like the billing type and the guarantor and the providers. Yeah, I think we just got to go through it individually. I do have a CE code. Is now a good time to throw that out?
Yeah, go ahead, because people are loving it.
Okay,
for sure.
2.5 CE credits. I'm an AGD PACE provider, so here's your CE code. B as in boy, 8 O A 4. So B as in boy, 8 O A 4. And for all of you that were registered, you will be receiving a survey, a feedback survey in your email. I would really appreciate feedback on how today went, what you'd like to see differently, if you'd like to see new topics, and then the CE code will also be available to that. If there are any doctors that have an AGD membership, let me know that, and I'll make sure that it gets logged in the AGD registry. Okay, so make sure you let me know.
One last question on Smart Image. If we have that, can we cancel Dexis?
No, Dexis is your imaging capture software. So Smart Image does not replace the imaging software. Smart Image is just a almost like a visual tool in your patient chart. It shows you all the thumbnails that are available, but as soon as you open up that image in the Smart Image toolbar, it then launches your Dexis software.
We're also getting a lot of requests for you to do webinars for clinical team members.
Yay!
Just
I
so
love
you know.
clinical, yes.
Yeah. So that's good. And then the last question I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Has 7.3 provided a way to view historical treatment plan presentations after treatment is completed? We currently take screenshots or send to the document center, and that seems clunky.
They didn't change that at all. You still want to send a copy of the treatment plan to the document center. So make sure if you're printing the treatment plan for the patient, I always did a second print to the document center, so you store a perfect exact copy of that in the document center.
And then would you just read the CE code one more time, please?
Yes. It is B as in boy, 8 O A 4.
There you go.
All right. Awesome. Nice job, everybody. Love you. We will schedule another one of these for hopefully a month from now. And then we will wrap this one up. All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend.